What's up, King Cats? Welcome back to my channel. So today I decided to sit in front of the Christmas tree because it's Vlogmas. I don't know what you're doing, sir. But anyway, I decided to sit in front of the Christmas tree for today's video. But today's video has nothing to do with Christmas. It has everything to do with bad fitness myths. So I made an Instagram post today talking about some of my personal, most cringeworthy, favorite bad fitness myths. I'm going to talk about a few of those, but then I asked you guys which ones that you would like to see debunked the most. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so myth number one that I talked about in my post is no carbs after dark or you'll gain weight or you'll gain body fat. This myth is completely asinine. It truly does not seem to matter from a scientific standpoint what time of day you eat your carbs, what time of day you eat your food, if you have a big meal before you go to bed, if you don't eat for a few hours before you go to bed. It doesn't seem to have that marked of an effect on actual fat loss, with the caveat that energy balance is maintained. So if somebody says, oh, don't eat after 8 p.m. and they would usually eat a meal or snack a bunch after 8 p.m. and so not eating after 8 p.m. removes a meal or a bunch of snacks for them, aka removing calories and putting them in a calorie deficit, then yes, they're going to lose weight. But they're not losing weight due to just not eating after 8 p.m. They're losing weight because they're eating less total throughout the day, so their total energy balance throughout the day is lower. Now on the flip side, if you're somebody, kind of a flip side, kind of alluded to this, but if you're somebody that most people, if they're gonna snack, if they're gonna fall off their diet, it happens at night. That's largely because humans have to make tens of thousands of decisions throughout the day. So as we go throughout the day, and as we're making all of those decisions, our actual willpower and decision-making muscles, so to speak, lessen in strength. They get fatigued. So by the time we get to the end of the day, we've already had to make all millions, tons of these decisions throughout the day, so we're less likely to make a good decision or a decision that honors our goals as the day goes on. So if you're somebody that at night you kind of fall off the wagon and you snack and you're going to the pantry a lot and you're picking a lot and you're like, oh well, fuck it, I'm just gonna have some ice cream, then yes, snacking when it's dark could be presenting a problem for you. But again, both of those problems could be solved by just maintaining energy balance throughout your day. So it's not, like I said in the post, you're not a photosynthetic plant. Like, you don't depend on, I just spit everywhere. You don't depend on light to synthesize your nutrients. Like, that does not actually make any sense. And then what about the people that wake up at like 4 in the morning and it's still dark outside? Should they not eat breakfast because it's still dark? So no, you don't have to stay away from carbs or eating after nighttime. That's not going to predispose you to fat gain so long as you're within your daily energy balance. Another one that I love is over-the-counter fat burners will help you get shredded. So what I mean by over-the-counter, I mean legal fat burners that you can buy from most supplement companies. So almost every single supplement company has some kind of fat burner that they sell. They promote it as a fat burner, but it usually contains some kind of stimulant, it usually contains some kind of appetite suppressant, things like that. But in terms of fat burners and progress, think really critically here. If over-the-counter fat burners had that large of an effect, wouldn't there be a lot more shredded people walking around? Even illegal drugs, obviously it's not illegal if you're prescribed it by a doctor, but even illegal fat burners like T3, clenbuterol, things like that, those won't work fully if your diet and your training and your recovery are not where they need to be. So if the most powerful fat burners that either require a doctor's prescription or are illegal to purchase, you have to have your diet and training locked down for, why would an over-the-counter legal supplement be different? So I think it's safe to say that the magnitude of overall effect, assuming that diet, training, recovery are all perfect and conducive to fat loss, which they probably aren't, a legal over-the-counter fat burner is going to have a very, very, very small effect on your fat loss. It's up to you to decide if that's worth your money, but I would argue that your money is probably better spent elsewhere in terms of supplements with things that are like basics and what I would consider essentials like creatine and fish oil. Oh my god, another one. Waist trainers. I know we've all seen celebrities on the internet and fitness people talking about wearing their waist trainers. Waist trainers, if you don't know what they are, they're normally a stretchy but compressive, I guess is the right word, thing that wraps around your torso from your under your boobs to like right above where like low-rise pants would wear, which should be illegal. Low-rise pants, not waist trainers, but maybe waist trainers should be illegal too. I don't really fucking know. But they go from like all the way around here, and they usually have clasps in the front, like hooks and eyes in the front, similar to a corset, like from back in the day. So people wear these under the impression that wearing one of them will help them to have better developed abs, a smaller waist, things like that. Not only is that not true, again, okay, so what this comes down to, if you want to have a smaller waist, you have to diet down to have a smaller waist, and you can't spot reduce fat. The only way you can spot reduce fat is to have it surgically removed. So you can't just be like, oh, well, I want my waist to get smaller and nothing else. It doesn't really work like that. Now, if you're somebody like me, for example, and a lot of women are like this, we lose fat in our upper bodies and our torsos before our lower bodies. So for me, I'll look like completely emaciated up top before my lower body does like anything. But so I'll look more disproportionate, and like my waist will get very small. Or if you're just somebody that doesn't genetically store much body fat there, then you know you're gonna have a small looking waist. But putting on something like a waist trainer isn't gonna make your waist any smaller. And in fact, depending on the extremity of tightness, how often you wear it, things like that, they can actually be very bad for you. They can do things like displace your organs and move them around, which is a very, very not good thing. Think about that. When you have something on that's very, very tight and it's compressing it, if you're wearing it for a very long time, your body is going to try and shift to that. So it's going to move around things internally, which is very not good. There's already not a lot of space up in here for everything to go. So let's just not fuck with that, shall we? A lot of people had questions about, do you have to lift heavy to build muscle, and particularly to grow your glutes? So not necessarily, but also yes. So what I mean here is, do you have to be a power lifter and have a super high 1 rep max in your squat and your deadlift to build your glutes? Absolutely not. But can you get by on just doing body weight training, banded training, keeping the same load throughout your movements throughout your entire training career and expect to grow? The answer is also no. This is because, and I kind of talked about this in my podcast about training plateaus, so go listen to that. But as you progress as a trainee, you continually have to apply progressive overload with your training. So when you're a new trainee, you can progress from pretty much looking at a weight because you've never weight trained before. But the more advanced you get, so for example, someone like me, I've been training since I was 16 years old. So I've been training for around 7 years now, upwards of 7 years. I can't just do the same workouts and like have the same training load and expect to progress the way I did when I was 16 years old. You have to constantly challenge your muscles, and you have to constantly give them the signal that, hey, we need to grow. And I talked about this in that podcast, but muscular growth is an adaptation. So an adaptation can either be maintained, progressed, or regressed. So in order to progress that adaptation, you have to provide your body with a greater stimulus than what it currently has to spark growth, if that makes sense. So can you just continue to lift the same weight that you've been lifting, or this within the exact same rep schemes or anything that you've been lifting, whatever? No, you have to continually progress in some fashion if you want to see continued growth. Ooh, this is another good one. Does muscle weigh more than fat? Okay. I want you to listen to this question, pause this, answer in the comments. If you have 1,000 pounds of feathers and 1,000 pounds of gold bricks, which one weighs more? They're both 1,000 pounds. They're the exact same fucking weight. So let's pretend that's muscle and fat. So we'll have the feathers be fat and the gold bricks be muscle. Muscle is more dense than fat. So you would have to have a lot. Those feathers would take up, if you had 1,000 pounds worth of feathers, they would take up a lot of space because you'd have to have a lot of them to get 1,000 pounds worth. with the gold bricks, you wouldn't have to have quite as many because per unit of size, they are just more dense. So muscle is more dense. So a pound of muscle and a pound of fat will take up different amounts of space. So a pound of muscle will take up much less space on a body than a pound of fat will. The pound of muscle would look visually smaller than the pound of fat because it's denser. So I hope that clears that up. 1 pound of one thing does not weigh more than 1 pound of another thing because a pound is a pound. Someone asked, or someone said, it's easier for guys to lose weight. Honestly, I don't really think that's a myth. I think that's just kind of a general rule. Not really rule, but just a general thing that is accepted to be true. So in general, women have an extra layer of body fat compared to men. They don't have that extra layer of body fat that's meant for reproduction like we do, for like harboring and growing a fetus. So generally speaking, it's usually a bit easier for men to lose body fat than women, just because they have less of it to begin with percentage wise. And also take into consideration that men don't have the monthly cycle of hormones that women have. So that can also interfere with or skew the appearance of fat loss, just because our weight does tend to fluctuate more. And just as women, we have more factors working against us from a body fat loss perspective because our bodies don't want us to lose body fat. Our bodies don't want us to surrender that safe kind of like protective coating that we would need if we wanted to grow a baby. So in general, it is a bit easier for men to lose body fat than women. They have higher just basal metabolic rates because they're usually larger people and they don't have that extra layer of body fat that we have. Ooh, this one's a good one, that you can specifically target something like love handles or saddlebags. So this is a really common thing that I see people posting resistance training workouts for, is like, oh, do this workout to get rid of your banana roll, or do this workout to get rid of your love handles, or do this workout to get rid of this and that and this and that and this and that. And that's fucking lying. We kind of talked about this earlier. You can't spot reduce body fat. And when it comes to, let's take an area like the banana roll, for example. If you don't, first of all, there's so many fucking heinous names for just random fat distribution spots that women have. And I would be really fucking happy if we could just throw those out the goddamn window. All in favor, like this video, say aye in the comments below because I think it's absolutely positively heinous. And it's just but when it comes to something like the banana roll, which if you don't know what that is generally the under butt. The butt under your butt. It's like a little fat pocket that sits right underneath the bottom of your glute, right on top of your hamstring. So it looks kind of like this. Like when I have a higher body fat, I most definitely have one. And the thing is, first of all, there's a couple of reasons why this, you can't just be like, oh, do this workout to get rid of this. So we talked before about you can't spot reduce body fat. That's just not a thing. When you lose body fat, you lose it gradually from everywhere. And every single person has different spots due to genetics that they will lose body fat from first. So like I mentioned before, I'm somebody that I will predominantly lose from my upper body before my lower body starts to budge. But you can't spot reduce body fat, and everybody loses body fat from different areas first, different areas last, things like that. So you can't just do a workout and be like, oh, the fat will disappear from here and not here. No, it's a systemic, gradual loss all over. Another reason why that is complete and utter bullshit is because if you're saying do this resistance training workout to get rid of this body fat pocket, two entirely different things. That banana roll is not muscle. There's not a muscle there. That is a fat deposit. So you can't resistance train away a fat deposit. You have to lose body fat to lose a fat deposit. Now, can resistance training help to firm the muscles around where you would generally store more fat? Like for example, can you grow your glutes and have them be like perkier? Abso-fucking-lutely. But if you still have body fat there, there's still body fat there. So just the act of doing something like I see people do like cable pull throughs for this all the time, like, oh, get rid of your banana roll by doing cable pull throughs, and I'm like, no, it doesn't work like that. The simple act of doing cable pull throughs, which are generally a hip glute hamstring dominant exercise, those will work to build the glutes and the hamstrings, but they don't actually work to burn fat in those areas. Again, you have to have relatively different circumstances and scenarios in order to lose body fat on the whole. And again, you can't spot reduce it. So that is absolutely positively fucking heinous. Let's throw that out the window. She's gone. All right, and then this will be the last one because this is already getting pretty long. But eating super low calorie to lose weight, like sub 1200 calories. So God bless my fitness pal. Fucking great macro tracking app. Fucking horrible dietary energy balance guideline app. I remember being as young as like 15, 16 years old and using my fitness pal and it telling me that, oh, you need to eat 1200 calories per day or less. But bitch, I was dancing over 24 hours a week. I needed way more food than that, especially as a developing adolescent, teenager, young adult. I don't know if you're a young adult then. Long story fucking short, you need way more food than that. And there's no, this is also, okay, I think this is the main problem with giving a general calorie recommendation like that is there is no one blanket fat loss level of calories for every single person. So every single person has a different metabolism. Everybody has a different basal metabolic rate. Everyone has different levels of NEAT throughout the day, which contribute to energy expenditure. Everybody is different in terms of their age and gender. So as you age, your metabolic rate gradually goes down. Women generally have lower BMRs than women. Women generally have lower BMRs than men. Just a whole slew of things. Everybody burns a different amount of calories throughout their day. And everybody has different, what I would refer to as thresholds for fat loss and weight gain. So what I mean by that is I've worked with clients for over 3 years. I myself have competed since 2014. And it seems both in myself and people that I've been able to take through multiple dieting cycles, regardless of how high their food could get in the off season, it does seem that most people have a threshold around which they start to lose body fat. And that's different for every single person. I've had people that could lose weight on 2,800 calories. I've had people that don't lose weight till they're at like 1,600 calories. It's just different for every single person. So to give a blanket statement like that, or to follow a blanket diet like that, is entirely misguided. Like, So it's really important to remember that metabolism is dynamic within one individual and across all individuals. So everybody has a different metabolic rate. Everybody loses weight at a different calorie level. So we can't just give blanket statements. Whew, that was a lot. All right, you guys, I'm gonna wrap this one up here for today because my camera is dying and I also have to leave. But I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this was informative for you guys. There's so many fitness and nutrition myths out there, so I would be more than happy to continue to debunk some of them for you. Just leave ones that you have in the comments below and I will see you in my next video. All right, love you so much. Bye.